Hey everybody, Dimitri here. And last year was my first season of Hard Enduro. So I just wanted to make a video talking about some of the lessons I learned. So if you are thinking about trying a Hard Enduro, trying your first event, this video is for you. I don't have any first person footage because AMA doesn't allow helmet mounted cameras, and I run a chin camera normally. So you get to either look at me or look at some of the other footage from some other riding or some other riders. So first, I just want to say that I am an average rider. I started riding as an adult. I've been riding for probably about 8 or 9 years, and really only the last few years I've been kind of riding off-road seriously and taking a little bit more of a serious approach to it. So I've been a C rider for a long time. This year I made the jump up to B class since I've been putting a little bit more work in. And these are the lessons that I've learned, which I feel could be valuable to some other average riders. Obviously, I'm no pro. And these are lessons that I've learned either myself through trial and error, but there's also a lot of things that I've learned from other riders. So first, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about what the events themselves are like, because I feel like what you see on YouTube and on Instagram is not actually very representative of what the hard enduros are like. What I imagined, and what I think a lot of people think that haven't done a hard enduro, is that it's a lot of big boulders and kind of hero moves, and that's the hard part. And as a result, I think a lot of people end up practicing the wrong things, because they think it's just these gnarly rock climbs and just flipping your bike over and that kind of thing, which is not what a hard enduro is. That is probably 1% of any given hard enduro, and that's where everybody is, and that's where everybody is with their phones and their cameras, and that's why that's what you see on social media. But the reality is the majority of the course is not crazy stuff. The difficulty comes from the fact that the events are really long, and most of the time you'll spend riding what I'd say medium difficulty trail. So maybe second and third gear, maybe third gear, a lot of second gear trail, or being stuck. Those are the two things that really take a lot of energy. Being stuck somewhere, whether it's, and when I'm saying being stuck, usually you're stuck trying to get up some hill. There might be a muddy situation where you're just stuck on a 6-inch route for 20 minutes. You might be stuck going up some hill for 40 minutes, some really long hill climb, just making it up an inch at a time, pushing your bike, helping other push their bike. So that's what makes these events difficult. It's not heroics, it's just a long grind. That's what makes a hard enduro hard. And when I'm describing this, you're probably thinking, why would anybody do this? This sounds like a slog, doesn't sound fun, but the reality is it's hugely rewarding. Sometimes you'll spend 20 minutes trying to get up some little hill, and when you get up it, and your new buddy that you've been struggling with also gets up it, you guys are high-fiving, cheering. You just went 20 feet, but it's such a sense of accomplishment. And that gets me to my next point, is the community around these events is absolutely amazing. It's one of those things where you're fighting the terrain, you're not necessarily fighting each other, and that's something that I've learned I really enjoy. Everybody works together, everybody helps each other, everybody wants to see one another succeed. The community is super, super supportive of everybody. I've done all kinds of racing, and I've never seen anything like this. It's very special, and I think what also makes it kind of special is that this experience is so unlike a lot of other dirt bike riding that it's honestly kind of hard to describe to your friends that don't do hard enduro what happened at the event. So you come home and you really can't just put it into words. It's one of those you just had to be there type of things. And you share this experience with all the other hard enduro riders, and that builds a huge sense of camaraderie. And the other part about the events themselves that's kind of special is that because the speeds are so slow and you spend a lot of time pretty much at a stop, you actually get to kind of hang out and talk a lot of crap to each other, and you get to talk to spectators. Spectators give you food, they give you water. And so I found that I was practicing a lot of the wrong things when I was thinking I was getting ready for hard enduro. What I realized that is very, very valuable, I'd say the top 3 skills that I find are super useful as an amateur and kind of beginner in hard enduro are hill climbs and descents. Those are absolutely necessary. If you can't get up a hill well, which is me half the time, you are going to waste a lot of energy. If you can just ride up a hill and not have to try it 4 times, you will be way, way better off. Same thing on descents. Descents are scary, and if you can practice those and be comfortable on those, like really, really steep stuff, you can save yourself a lot of time and also a lot of danger, because you need to be able to ride down them safely without crashing into whatever is at the bottom, or go over the handlebars or things like that. So those have to be dialed. The next one that is very not obvious but is super, super important is slippery conditions with poor traction. That describes, I'd say, 80% of what makes a hard enduro hard. Because most of the terrain that you're on, if it's perfect conditions, you can ride it with no problem. And but a lot of times it's slick, it may be rained, it might be muddy, so you have to be comfortable riding in limited traction. And the last one is getting unstuck. Most of the time, you're not doing anything crazy gnarly. What I found is that what I waste a lot of energy on until I've kind of got the techniques to not is really, really stupid little stuff. It might be a route that's 4 inches tall in the middle of kind of a steeper climb, and you could spend 20 minutes trying to get over it. It doesn't look like anything, but it's hugely, hugely draining on energy. So that's a very, very important technique to do or to practice, is getting unstuck and getting over these small obstacles where there's not a lot of traction. The most important thing is you have to have it dialed. If you can do something on a perfect day in perfect traction when you're nice and fresh, it doesn't matter, because that's not the situation you're going to be in. So it's super, super important to practice these things in your worst condition. Like, imagine somebody wakes you up when you're sick at 2 a.m, puts you on a motorcycle, you should be able to execute. So it's important to practice this stuff over and over again to make sure that it's dialed. You have to practice things until you get them perfect. They might be really, really simple things, but you got to practice them over and over again, hundreds of times until I get them perfect. And because the events are so long, fitness really comes into play. Even as a sea rider, I think you need to be fairly fit to even stay out there for the 4 or 5 or 6 hours. I'm not even talking about winning. So the only real practical recommendation I will give on the fitness side is that you want to work on your endurance. And by endurance, I mean doing something for a really long time, like many hours. That's what I found was really helpful for me, because these races are long. So if you've never done something, whether it's riding a motorcycle, riding a bike, hiking, running, or something for more than 20 minutes at a time. That's the biggest barrier, I feel like. What I find was really helpful was just going on really long runs, like hour plus runs, or hiking, which is really nice because it's actually good exercise, especially if you're wearing a heavy pack, but it's not very, it doesn't beat up your body, and it builds that mental fortitude where you are okay doing something for 4, 5, 6 hours at a time. So that's an area where I feel like you have to focus, for specifically for hard enduros, is doing those really long kind of grinding type exercises that are maybe not super high intensity, but mentally you're ready to just do something for that is exhausting for 4+ hours at a time. I think that has been hugely helpful for me, because when you get out there and you're out there for an hour and a half already, it doesn't feel that long, and you're kind of ready for more. So hard enduros are a motorcycle race, so the motorcycle is obviously pretty critical to that, but it's a huge subject, and I'm really only going to focus on 3 main things, because this could be a video of many hours and days otherwise. So number 1 is you want to make sure your motorcycle is well maintained. These events are very, very difficult. They're many hours, and if you have anything on your motorcycle that is kind of iffy, about to fail, I'm talking about things like weak batteries, worn out tires, bad wheel bearings, brakes that are on their last leg, leaky, anything, it is going to show its face and probably leave you stranded and disappointed. So if there's anything you're kind of thinking like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, do it before the event. Number 2 is protection. So that's a huge subject, very subjective. Some people go crazy, some people just do the bare minimum. I feel like I'm a little bit more in the middle, and I think at bare minimum you want a skid plate, you want radiator protection. You will crush them sooner or later. Pipe protection, that's up to you. Some people run it, some don't, for different reasons. Fork leg protection, maybe not. And then swing arm protection, that's more a KTM specific thing. But like I said, minimum, you want skid plate because you're going to go over rocks, and radiator protection, I would say that's a bare minimum. Hand guards, maybe, breakaway levers, that's probably a common thing. But just to give you an idea, you will probably drop your motorcycle between 10 and 40 times at a hard enduro event as an amateur. And number 3 is the hard enduro specific items, which I feel like the most important things are the radiator fan, because you're going to be going slow and your bike will overheat because it's not going to get a lot of air flowing through the radiators. So highly recommend the radiator fan. And the tire setup, that is a huge subject. You will hear many different discussions. I personally run mousses, and really soft mousses with really soft tires. Tires are kind of event specific. That's a lesson that I've learned as well. There's no do-it-all tire. So before the event, you want to ask around and see what people typically run in that terrain, because it is very event specific. So usually, it's going to be some sort of gummy, but different tires work differently well in different terrains. So you want to find that out. That's the rear tire. Front tire is a little bit less important. If you want to just run one tire, Bridgestone M59, most people love it. Just buy that tire and run it all the time. The other last aspect, this is not mandatory, but is generally a good idea, is gearing. Everybody does something a little bit different. On KTMs, it's pretty normal to do 1352. So that's a little bit bigger sprocket than the rear. That gives you a much more usable second gear. So that's kind of a good baseline. But again, that's all over the map and to some extent personal preference. So finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about is the actual events themselves. And what I learned about things that I should be doing the week of the race, well before the race, and also during the race. So the first thing I'll mention is that if you're thinking of doing your first hard enduro, I highly recommend you do another race first. If you haven't ever raced a motorcycle or a dirt bike ever before, doing a regular enduro, a hare scramble, something like that is probably a good idea, because these are absolutely more difficult on your bike and body than just a regular enduro, mostly just because the events are so long. So if you have never done a regular enduro, sign up, do one or two, make sure that you can finish those without feeling like you are going to die, and then yeah, give the hard enduro a try. Before the race, some of the important things to do are to, first of all, make sure you're sleeping and eating and all that kind of stuff properly. Doing some research, watching some videos of the events is really important. Talking to people about bike setups and things like that, because every event is different. Every event, a lot of them will have a different format. They'll have different qualifying races, different starting procedures, and that's something that kind of makes this a little bit more interesting too. The terrain will vary vastly between different events, so it's really good to do some of that research ahead of time, and it's very helpful. The week of the race, what I found is very helpful for me is to make sure my bike's ready well ahead of time, that I don't have to do a bunch of last minute stuff, and I can actually get a bunch of rest. I try not to exercise a couple days leading up to the event, so I'm not sore from working out. Try to drink a lot of water, get your hydration in, different strategies for that. So just try to figure out what works for you. And I highly advise against trying anything new, both leading up to the race and at the race itself. It's not a good idea trying different supplements or different foods or different bike setups or different gear. So go with what you trust, even if it's not optimal. I think there's a lot of mental comfort in being comfortable with your diet, your food, whatever. So try to get to the event as early as possible. Usually you if you have some time to walk the course, it's really important. That's something that I've learned, because it really, really helps, especially walking the more difficult sections. You will feel a lot more comfortable going into the race. It's really nice. I like to make sure that I get enough food and I have quality food. So I'll pre-cook my meals, and then I just bring pre-made food with me. So it's really easy for me to eat healthy and eat stuff that agrees with my stomach. Everybody is different, so you kind of have to do what works for you. Getting good sleep is important, so there's different strategies for that. Some people really like staying at hotels, which is great. I like being at the event site, so I don't have to go anywhere. And normally it's hard to get good sleep, so what I found is I just replace quality with quantity. So I just try to go to sleep really early and make sure that I'm in bed for like 9 to 10 hours, which is a lot for me, and that way I can wake up pretty refreshed. But really, I think the most important aspect is the mental aspect. So do whatever you got to do to have a positive attitude. So for me, I joke around, I talk to people, I'm there to have a good time. I'm not there to win anything, win any money, get any places. I just want to go out there, have a good time, push myself, and get as far as I can. So it's really helpful to have a positive attitude. But at the same time, when you're on the start line, I would say it does help to be very aggressive off the start. We're rolling into the actual race now. So what I find is really important is to get into the woods ahead of as many people as possible, because you will miss a lot of bottlenecks. And if you can stay as much ahead of the bottlenecks as possible, it will be very, very helpful. So riding fast but riding clean is what I try to do in the beginning of the race. Most of the time I'm not successful. I can ride fast, but I can't ride necessarily clean, so I'll kind of throw it all away. A few times I had really good starts where I was first or one of top 3 into the woods, and I would lead the race in my class for a few minutes and for maybe sometimes 10-15 minutes, but then I would make a stupid mistake and have a dozen people go past me as I'm trying to get my bike extracted. So as the race goes on, one thing that I learned is super, super important is to make sure I'm getting calories in. And I tried different things, and I usually have a combination of things. So I'll have some snacks with me. I'll have everything from granola bars to gels in my pack. I have a little pouch on the handlebars of my bike that I put some stuff in, and I try to keep up the energy levels. I've ran different supplements in my Camelback as well. It's just a matter of finding something that works well for you, for your system, whatever you like. There's all kinds of different stuff out there, but it's very important. Every hour I try to take in at least 100 to 200 calories, as much as I can realistically. And there's usually times when you have a little bit of time, whether it's a bottleneck, a gnarly hill, or just taking 30 seconds to eat a granola bar. It's not a big deal. During the race, I think what I found is really important is to take some moments to relax my arms. I get really bad cramps, especially in my arms and legs in some cases. So anytime the trail is a little bit easier, I try to make sure I chill out a little bit, catch my breath. I wear a Garmin watch, so I can kind of keep track of what my heart rate is, because I don't want to go into a gnarly hill climb when my heart rate's pegged and screw it up. So I'll take, even if it's 10 seconds, to just catch my breath and then attack the obstacle, just to give myself the best chance of clearing it the first time, and then I don't have to deal with it. All right, everybody. I think that's pretty much it for the lessons learned. A little vlog / ramble here. I learned a ton through the 9 events that I did this season, or this past season. So hopefully you guys find this useful. If you have any other suggestions, tips, tricks, comments, things that you think I'm doing wrong, which I'm sure there's a lot, or things that I could do better, definitely leave a comment. I'm always eager to learn. This is a really, really cool sport, and there's just an endless amount of things to learn about doing it better, or doing it differently, or trying new things. So hope you all having a good winter, and hope to see you on the trails.